Welcome back students. I am your geography teacher Vandana Joshi and you are watching SST June. Students, today we are going to study topic biodiversity and conservation, under which we will study few more subtopics. Under this, the topics which we will cover, these are, first one is the topic what is biodiversity. In which we will see what is the biodiversity, what are the reasons behind the biodiversity. Then after that, we will study the types of biodiversity. In which we will study the few topics of biodiversity as the genetic biodiversity, specific biodiversity and the ecological biodiversity. Then after that, we will study the different type of role of biodiversity. That as we know, there is a role of biodiversity in the human life as well as in the different aspects of the human life. So that we will study under the topic role of biodiversity. So let's see with the help of these topics what is biodiversity, types of biodiversity, and then after that the role of biodiversity. Students, what is the meaning of biodiversity? As we know, biodiversity is a combination of two words. One is bio, one is diversity. So the meaning of bio is life, which can be considered the human life, plant life, animal life and so on. Same like that, the word diversity, it means variety, means the variety between human life, animal life and plant life. So these are the variety in the life is known as the diversity. And also we can say the diversity is depend on the bio. Why on the biome? We know the bio, whatever the biomes we have studied in the previous chapter, life on the earth. There are the different biomes, and also the species of plants, human, animals and other things are totally different on every biome. As the biome can be included the forest, desert, marine life and the high altitude areas are also included in the biome. So here we can say the biodiversity is depend on the variation of human life as well as it is also known as the variety of life. So what can be a proper definition of biodiversity? So let's see what is the biodiversity. Students, the biodiversity always refers to the variation in the organisms and all the living beings which we are getting on the earth. So let's see what can be the diversity in the other words. In the simple words, or we can say as a definition, the biodiversity is the number and variety of organisms found within a specific geographical region. A given geographical region, as already I told you that there are different type of biomes and each biome contain different type of varieties of the floras and the faunas. So here we can see the variety which we are getting in the different type of a geographical condition, that is the biodiversity of that given area. It refers the variety of plants, animals and the microorganisms. We can include all the living beings, in which we can include the animals, plants and all kind of microorganisms as a biodiversity of that given geographical area. So here again we can say it related to the variability among living organisms on the earth, means whosoever are the living beings on the earth in the different kind of biome, these all are considered as the biodiversity of that given area. students, the biodiversity can be divided into three types. First is the genetic biodiversity, in which we know that there are every person is having a different kind of genes, in which the plants, animals and the microorganisms are considering the different type of genes. So that type of biodiversity is known as the genetic biodiversity. Second is the species biodiversity. We know that every area and every biome is containing different type of species. So that type of biodiversity is known as the species biodiversity. As example, we know the tigers, somewhere these are having the different color and somewhere the tigers are having white tigers also. So that is their species biodiversity because of their biome. Means in which biome they are living, they have changed their self into according to that biodiverse area. Then third is the ecosystem biodiversity. As in the geomorphic processes, we have studied about the geomorphic process which is affecting to the different type of area, in which the ecological system of that area is totally diverse. So the reason behind the biodiversity is also known as the geomorphic process, and the biodiversity which is changed due to the geomorphic process is known as the ecosystem biodiversity. Now students, let's see these three types in detail, in which we will see what is the genetic biodiversity except the species biodiversity and the ecosystem diversity. What is the genetic biodiversity exactly? Genetic biodiversity is depend on the genes. Means the basic structure which has been formed for a particular living organism, it is structured by the genes. So the genes are the basic form of the genetic diversity or the causes behind the genetic biodiversity. So here we can say the genetic diversity is known as the basic structure of any living organism. In general, we can say the genetic diversity or the genetic biodiversity refers to the different variation between the same species. Means we know that a same species is having different type of variation according to their different given geological area. So in their color and in their basic structure, there are the responsible factors are the genes, and these genes are considered as the genetic biodiversity. To know more about the genetic diversity, let's watch this short video clip. Go to the next topic, that is the species biodiversity. Species diversity. Students, the species diversity is also interconnected with the genetic diversity. As we know, if there are the different genes, so the species can be having a different type of variety. So variety in the species is known as the species diversity. Okay, and here we can say if a given area is having a number of species diversity or many kind of species, so that area are known as the hot spot of the species. So let's see what is exactly the species diversity. Student, the third type of diversity is known as the ecosystem diversity. That is the ecosystem diversity. So what is the ecosystem diversity? In the previous chapter, we have studied about the ecosystem, and we know that different area is containing a different kind of ecosystem, due to which the species and the living organism, microorganism, plant and other things are having a different type of species on that given area. Many examples in a same region, due to the ecosystem, the varieties are much there just because of the differentiation between the ecosystem. So that type of diversity is known as the ecosystem biodiversity. Here we can consider a simple example. If we know in a hilly area, so in a hilly area, the areas which are having the low altitude, these are not gaining the snowfall. But the areas which are having the high altitude as compared to the low altitude area, these are having the snowfall. Due to which the differentiation between the plants and the animals is shown easily. So that type of diversity is known as the ecosystem biodiversity. So it is also depend on the whole ecological system. Now let's see what is the importance of the biodiversity. Is the biodiversity is important? Yes. Because due to the biodiversity in the different area, there are the different type of species. We are getting a different type of variation in all type of biomes. here we can say the importance of biodiversity can be seen into three areas. First is the First of all, we can say the biodiversity is important because it is playing an important role of the economical condition of a given area, which we can also say the economical role of the biodiversity. Second is the scientific role of the biodiversity, as due to many aspects, due to many reasons, and due to the study of the human history or any other microorganisms or any other type of organisms history, we have to study the biodiversity, in which we have to study it through the scientific manners, and it is also helpful to make a new kind of views and idea, make it more useful for the human beings. So second role of the biodiversity is known as the scientific role. And the third importance is known as the ecological importance of the biodiversity, as due to the biodiversity, the ecological areas are having a variation in the species. So the third role of biodiversity in the area of the ecology. So third we will study, that is the ecological role of biodiversity. So let's see in detail what are the economical, scientific and the ecological role of biodiversity, which also we can say the importance of the biodiversity in the different areas. So students, here we can say the biodiversity has contributed in many ways to the development of human culture, and in turn human communities have played a major role in shaping the diversity of nature at the genetic, species and ecological levels. Species captured and stored energy, produce and decompose organic materials, had to cycle water, gases and minerals, which we have studied in our previous chapter. These functions are important for ecosystem. In this way, biodiversity plays important role in shaping of nature as well. It implies that every organism, besides interacting its need, also contribute some time useful to their organisms. So we can say the more diverse an ecosystem, better are the chances for the species to survive through adversity and attacks, and consequently is more productive. Students, here we also can say, in the other words, more the variety of species in an ecosystem, the more stable the ecosystem is likely to be. Means to say, if there will be a diversity in the ecosystem, it will be very helpful to survive of different species according to their genes. The importance of biodiversity in the different aspects, as the ecological role of biodiversity, here we can include the species of many kind perform some function or the other in an ecosystem. These functions are important for ecosystem and human survival. If we talk about the economical role of biodiversity, one important part of biodiversity is the crop diversity, which is also called agrobiodiversity. Some of the important economical commodities that biodiversity supplies to the humankind are food crops, livestock, and forestry, etc. Students, due to the ecological or economical role of the biodiversity, it is also important aspects because if the economically, as I told about the agrobiodiversity, here are many kind of diversity economically like marine biodiversity, forest diversity, and many more, due to which we are getting a lots of different type of species of that given particular things like agriculture and the marine, forest, horticulture, viticulture, and other different type of works which are related to the biodiversity. So the economical aspects are very useful in the biodiversity. The next, third one is the scientific role of biodiversity. What we can include here? Biodiversity also help in understanding how life functions and the role of each species in sustaining ecosystem of which we are also a species. So as already I told you, the scientific role of biodiversity is to be study more and more about any particular species and to develop that species into various forms. So that is the importance of the biodiversity. Students, here we can say the biodiversity is playing a very important role to form a nature and also in the different aspects of the human beings. As I already told you, in the different aspects as ecological, economical, and the scientific, these all are an important part of the human life. So in the different areas, the biodiversity is playing a very big role to develop these species, to earn more and more economy, to make the economy in a better way, and also to make a good, or we can say a developed infrastructure of our ecosystem. So here our today's topic is complete. Here I am providing you few definitions which will be helpful to you to understand the topic biodiversity and conservation.